Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. Welcome back to our podcast, Modeling Success Successfully. Today we have a very today, sorry for the difficulty, there we go. Today we have a very special guest that is actually going to teach us a lot about not only in photography and videography, but also in life. But what I want to do is I want to give the proper welcome for David, and here we are. So he's a super talented photographer and videographer, like mentioned, who also manages social media for small businesses. Additionally, he runs his own YouTube channel where you can find budget friendly product reviews and travel vlog type videos. So, without further ado, please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome our special guest, David Senteno. David, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gore. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well also. Thank you so much.
So
So,
good to speak to you in person.
I know it is very refreshing, especially after the fact we've been in contact for quite quite some time now, over a year, almost 2 years. So that's a big deal right there. That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see who is going to be in the chat section so we can welcome them. We have Mark Sidebottom. Mark, welcome. Good to have you here. And just so you guys know, today's topic, we're going to talk about overall photography, videography, YouTube, gear, and much more, life in general. So if you have any questions, you feel free to ask them in the live chat section. We'll be sure to keep an eye out, and if the question is congruent with the topic we're talking about, we'll go ahead and refer to it. Otherwise, we'll save it to come back to it later. So David, welcome. How are you, brother? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing good too. Thank you so much. It is good to again meet you over here. David, tell me, I'm so curious to know, like, in details, what your story is and how you came about photography, videography, YouTube, and overall, and our paths merged. So we brought us here. So why don't you just let me and the viewers know what you do and so on and so forth.
Sure. Well, I'll start with what I do. I actually do photo and video. It all started with, of course, a YouTube channel and photography that I started taking, about 3 years ago. It's about 2.5, 3 years ago. But really, the journey started back in high school. Our advisor for the school newspaper and the school yearbook asked me to start taking photos. And I said,
Nice.
sure, why not? And I started taking photos. From there, I learned how to develop the film, print the photos, all the old school things, which we don't have to worry about now with digital photography. And that's where it started. But over the years, I've come back to photo, video, and enjoying taking pictures, enjoyed taking photos. But I never stuck with it. It was always something else that I was doing at the time, something else that would take me away from it. But there was always that nagging itch in the
Right.
back of my head that said, hey, let's get a camera. Hey, let's take some photos. And of course, once smartphones really started to take off, you could do video with your smartphones. I started shooting videos on my smartphones, taking pictures with my smartphones.
Right.
Uh,
So
and
convenient,
so
right?
I'm sorry?
It's so convenient, right? Having the smartphone to have a decent quality video or like a lens on it.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly. It just became something you could just pick up in your hand and create with. And man, I remember sitting. I used to have really bad insomnia. I suffer from sleep apnea, so I have to use a CPAP machine. But at the time, I didn't know it. So, gosh, I would get maybe 2-3 hours of sleep a night, and I'd be up late at night with nothing to do. And I remember taking my photos and putting them together and setting them to music and creating, and of course, exhausted that day at
And
work.
next thing you know,
But
the
it
time
was
flies,
satisfying.
right?
I'm sorry?
And next thing you know, the time flies.
Yeah, of course. And then the sun's up, but you were in that zone in that moment trying to get out whatever was in you and express it through the medium of your choice. So it's been over my whole life. I've ignored the the nagging inspiration to create, because I was brought up very in a poverty level, and I was taught you go to work, you earn money, and that's your life. And being creative had nothing to do with it. There was no option for a creative. If anything, creativity was something that was looked down on and something you couldn't make a living at.
Right.
But over the years,
It
of
was
course,
a
that's changed.
luxury, in other words.
Yes, exactly. Because you had to pay your rent, you had to buy the groceries, you had to, which you still do, but the opportunity to
Pursue.
really be creative, whether you want it as a career or just simply as enjoyment, has really blossomed with the internet and has made that available. And of course, once I wanted to do a YouTube channel, I stumbled on your old channel as I was trying to learn how to do thumbnails and YouTube banners at the top, and that's where we got connected. As I found your channel, and
Right.
you provided so much information that it really helped me along my way.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you. Thank you for that compliment, David. I appreciate that. Then, you know, multiple things I can get out of your story. Number one is resilience. I mean, look at you. The priorities in life, a lot of times, make decisions for us, make the choices for us depending on the circumstances. A lot of times make the decisions for us, which is unfortunate, but that comes from priorities. And you've positioned yourself in life where you can prioritize, take care of the priorities, yet at the same time pursue on some level to the things that you enjoy doing on your free time. And wherever comes out of it is a bonus, which is similar to what I'm doing with the podcast over here. So that's amazing, David. I appreciate you sharing that story, man. Thank you so much for that. What I want to ask you, David, is about your plans. What are your goals with the photography and videography and YouTube, and how can the listeners help you to get there?
Well, my larger long term goal would be to create a company that provides creative content for businesses, and that would be photography, videography, social media content. That would really be my goal, is to have a company that would do that. That would be fantastic, to constantly be creative and make enough income that is my number one focus, is just being creative. That would be my long-term goal. Right now, my short-term goal is just to get my content viewed, and to obtain more clients that are interested in social media content. So gaining clients and transitioning into that content creator world, from just being a photographer or just being known as a videographer. That's really my goal, is making that pivot, that change, so that I'm a social media content creator and not necessarily the landscape photographer that I started with back before COVID hit.
Understood. Understood. In other words, you're pivoting, you're adapting, and you're adjusting, which is amazing. Yeah, like Jeff Bezos says, adapt or die. And in any career, any business, if you have to adapt to the times, to what's catching on more and more. And our favorite, both of us are not favorite, but both of us, we really respect this guy. I'm talking about Gary Vaynerchuk, and what he's doing with Vayner Media is similar to what you described, to what your plans are with your career. And I think that's really amazing, and that's a huge project, which is good, because we need huge projects, because to spend years on working on being, and when it flourishes, everything comes through. And the time for your your type of business, from a business perspective, I would say it's better than ever, because of many reasons, like you just mentioned right now. You started with landscape photography. Now you're noticing the different type of avenues of, for example, YouTube Shorts. There is TikTok. There is Instagram Reels. There is regular posts, and so on and so forth. Just to name a few. Now you're capitalizing on that too, because at the end of the day you understand one thing, and you mentioned it, it's views, it's attention, how much attention you can get from the public. And in order to get more attention from the public, in my opinion, you need to add value. You cannot waste people's time and expect them to spend time on your content. It doesn't work that way. If they're giving their time to you, you got to give them something, either confirm something they already knew, or add some kind of value, which is another thing that I want to get with you on that. And it's a little change of the topic, but still around the similar, in the same boat. So
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about books. Do you read books? And if so, do you have any favorite books, and any books that have changed your life? Like, do anything not necessarily change your life, or maybe that's too harsh of a put. Let's say any books you've read in the past that have made a big impact in your life.
Yeah. There's so many, and I used to be an avid
I
reader,
love
but
this topic, by the way.
you do.
I do.
Yeah, and I would say change your life is a fair statement. I think that books can truly change your life. Now, everybody has a different learning medium. Some people need video, some people need diagrams, some people need books. But I think that books are a good medium because of the fact that you retain the information longer. It has more of an impact. You can stop, you can reread, you can highlight and revisit. I really like books. And for my journey throughout my life, there's been quite a few different books that have impacted my life. But I would say that there's three books, probably four, that are the most important ones that really changed my perspective. I
Uh-huh.
would say the first one is The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. I don't know if you've read that one, but that one's the story's really geared towards an athlete and how he loses his ability to perform his specific sport and how he overcomes it. But the journey is his change in perspective in life. And that was very impactful to me. It made me very self-aware of my perspective in life. So I would say that's number one, Peaceful Warrior. There's actually a movie with Nick
Excuse me to
Nolte.
interrupt, David.
No, go
I
ahead.
didn't catch the last name. The Peaceful Warrior by Daniel. What was the last name?
Dan Millman.
Dan Millman.
Yes.
How do you spell the last name, please?
I believe it is Millman. And like I said, there's a movie version. So if you're more of a video person rather than a book reading person, because I know our hero Gary V, he doesn't like to read, but there is a movie version with Nick Nolte as well. And I have a whole interesting story. I could go an hour about my story with Peaceful Warrior, but I won't cover that now. I'll stick to books.
No worries. Maybe we can revisit after, when we covered a few topics, to a story that really stuck with you.
Sure. The other book, and I actually have it written down here, is The War of Art.
Is it
This
by
is
Lao Tzu?
no. This is The War of Art, not The Art of War. It's reversed,
Understood.
and it's by Stephen Pressfield. And it is actually geared towards creative people, writers, photographers, videographers, anyone that's creative. But it can be used towards business, towards many things. And it's basically the internal conflict that we have with producing and achieving, and to become self-aware of what people go through trying to create. It's actually a really good book. It's a short book. It's an easy read. It's a book that Joe
We need
Rogan
books like that.
recommends. I'm sorry.
We need books like that as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good place to start. And then the last book that I would recommend is called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. and that's by Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who unfortunately is no longer with us. That is actually his translation and his examination of the Tao Te Ching, brought into a modern world and some modern thinking. It's really meant for you to take a step-by-step approach.
Hmm.
And what he did is he took a whole year and went through each chapter of the Tao Te Ching and
Mhm.
translated it and thought about it. And he took a whole year to write this book. I think it's an excellent book and something that I can recommend for people as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for those book suggestions, David. Those were they sound awesome, and I'm definitely going to check out. The Peaceful Warrior is something that stuck out to me the most. One question I had, I'm 90% sure on the answer, but I want to clarify.
Sure.
The character you were speaking about in the first book, Peaceful Warrior by Don Millman, um, was the character the athlete or the coach?
Well, the main character is the athlete, and actually
Understood.
the main character in the story is actually Dan Millman.
Mm,
He took some experiences of his life and created this fictional story, but in some ways autobiographical. So
mhm.
the his mentor in the book is an amalgam of many different people, coaches and mentors that he had throughout his life, and he put that together in one book.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for sharing this really priceless information, because the information you can find in the books, I think of books as this way. People spent many years to gather the information and knowledge throughout the history to put it in a book, and in a matter of, let's say, 15 to 20 hours, you consume that information. You basically, these people lived their lives and gave everything to create the history. You just consumed it. I think there's a lot of golden nuggets that we can all learn from the books that can actually prevent a lot of downfalls. Not everything, of course. At the end of the day, we're humans, but a lot can be actually uh, uh, minimized by
Yeah,
simply learning from the past.
Tony Robbins has a quote. He always says that success leaves clues, and I think
Yes,
that's what you're looking for.
I
It's
love that.
yeah. I think people always want to reinvent the wheel, and I don't think it's about reinventing the wheel. I think it's about finding the things that work for you and implementing those things on a consistent basis. Because not everything will work for you, but
So true.
those clues of success, if you don't go looking for them, you're never going to find them.
Right. I finished Tony Robbins' book the second time, to be frank with you. Unleash the Beast Within.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't get enough. I get really hyped. That's a really good book to listen to when you want to speak to someone. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I think that that there's so much good information out there, and really, I think that the general idea is simply to expose yourself to new perspectives that could probably work better for you, especially if you're struggling in an area. Uh, is to make yourself available to those to that information.
Hmm.
And I think once you make yourself available to it, you pick up on those clues and they'll ring true for you. There's just something about the truth that rings true to your heart, your soul, whatever you would like to call it. And you know that that's the thing. It just feels right for you. And that's why I think it's important, especially because this channel is about success. It's important to expose yourself to books, to video, to speakers, because you never know where those nuggets of success will exist.
Absolutely. Well said, David. Well said. And before closing the topic, one of my favorite books is it's a very small, very easy to read book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. I unfortunately don't know off the top of my head the author, but that's the name of the book. And the book really taught me one thing: how the small habits that we have daily and we do, a lot of us are not even aware of, create such big big impact in our life over long term. And richest man in Babylon, the person, uh, um, this is specifically geared towards financial, but the the story really applies to everything. It simply says if you're aware of the small, basic, simple steps you do on daily basis, and you can adjust them towards to basically bettering your situation and your financial situation, it's there. You don't need to be making, for example, 10,000 a month or 15,000 or wherever, 50,000, 100,000, $500,000 a month in order for you to save money. The amount of money that most of the people make, they're able to do it. It's just a matter of the habits that we have. So that book emphasizes on that a lot. Really, really, that resonated with me. I wanted to put out there. I noticed we have new viewers in the live chat section. The PCG team, welcome. It is good to see you guys again. Welcome. Thank you so much for making the time and being here. Applied Life Dynamics, shout out to your name that you chose. First of all, I really like it. It's really it has a punch to it. Applied Life Dynamics. Applied
Hey, hey,
uh-huh.
Gore.
Yes.
Hey, Applied Life Dynamics is actually my latest social media client.
Whoa.
Yeah. So,
Amazing.
hi guys.
Amazing.
Thanks for
There
viewing
we
my
go. There
live.
we go.
They just jumped on. Yep.
That's
They,
amazing. Let's see what they are saying. Yes, it is difficult to step out of our comfort zone, but I can see that it is necessary to build a social media presence if you want a thriving business. I could not agree more. Very well put. That's awesome. David, why don't you tell us a little more about Applied Life Dynamics and what they do, please?
Sure. Applied Life Dynamics, the idea behind Applied Life Dynamics is trying to build a community of parents and educators to help support children with special needs, including autism, which is a great time for them to start their business because this is Autism Awareness Month. Being a person that is on the spectrum, although high functioning, I can tell you that not having the support or having educators or parents that are aware of the things you go through being on the spectrum can be very detrimental. And I really believe in what Applied Life Dynamics is doing, which is trying to build that community, educate the educators, and educate the parents so that children with special needs, children with emotional needs, they are helped and met. And of course, if you help the children, you help our future.
That is really, really amazing, David. And I don't know if you know this or not, but 10 for 5 years, I worked in a home care with mentally challenged individuals with autism, paranoid schizophrenia, so on and so forth. And I have a family member as well that was mentally challenged from birth as well. So I have a really personal connection with the subject, and that is amazing what Applied Life Dynamics is doing. And if they are willing to, I would love to co-host with you and have them on our podcast show to talk about the subject a lot more, sometimes in the future, of course, if they're interested. And we actually have a future guest. He's I'm 16 or 15, around their year old, up and coming singer who is also autistic, and we're going to have him as our special guest on the podcast as well, so we can bring more of awareness to the topic. So that's in the books as well. It's interesting that how this topic came up and it's all wrapping together. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't know about you. And you know, the actual idea with Applied Life Dynamics presented as something that would fit really well in social media, and it was good that we could come together to create an entity. So you'll be seeing videos on YouTube and posts on social media, and I'm really happy to be a part of that. So it was a good thing to get a client, but especially good to get a client that promotes um, care for children,
Hmm.
which is something that I like, and is also there to support children with special needs as well. So it was a winner chicken dinner for me.
That's awesome. I call it spiritually rewarding. That's what I personally call it.
That is the perfect phrase for that.
Awesome, awesome. Let's see. I believe we have new, we have more guests joining us. David, PCG team said we are learning much about David. Thank you, Gore. You're very welcome, guys. Thank you so much. Applied Life said amazing, David. Thank you. Hi,
Hey,
David and Gore. Hello, the Sangar scene. How are you? Shout out to you.
the Sanger scene is also very special to me. The Sanger scene is actually my sister, uh,
Oh,
who I
very
am
nice meeting
very,
you.
very proud of. She actually runs her own magazine, online magazine for the city of Sanger, California, and uh, and I just want to say a quick hi to her. Hey, sis.
That's
She's
amazing.
done an
Hello
amazing
to
job.
you.
Yeah, she does her own photography, her own videos. She runs the magazine. She started it from the ground and worked her way up. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
I guess
So
fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. Brother and
it's
sister,
kind of
you
interesting.
guys
We
are
ended up in the same area.
there you go. That's that, I see a lot of similarities. You guys are really self-reliant and self-dependent, and you don't see that nowadays too much. Usually you see a lot of fingers being pointed and a lot of blame being thrown, but I see a lot of um, aspects that comes down to person taking it upon themselves and doing it. That's hence why it's getting done. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gotten done. That's awesome. Let's see if there are any more comments. Applied Life Dynamics, fun emojis. You're very welcome. Yep, perfect. Thank you, David. That's perfect explanation. Very good. Applied Life Dynamics. Wow, that is amazing. Gore, you are really have to have the heart and passion to work with individuals with special needs. Yes, and I personally have a lot of amazing stories too that I proud myself too in regards to that. We had the individuals that did not speak a word, and they started speaking a month after moving in, living with us. We had individuals never eaten warm normal food. They were always fed cold food and half an apple for lunch. You don't do that to an individual. So a lot of as that's a topic maybe we can all have sit and talk about and
Yeah,
bring more
no,
awareness to.
there's a lot about, and especially in nutrition with children with autism and attention deficit disorder. There's a lot of case studies on nutrition
Mm.
affecting those children, and how simple changes in nutrition can totally change their activity and their interactions for the day. So yeah, you're right.
I
Nutrition is
so
very
agree.
important.
I so agree, and a lot of times, you know how it is. A lot of medication is involved with these situations, and medications have their own side effects. So nutrition is only going to help the process smoother, you know. And
That's true, Gore. Very true.
so that's awesome. We honestly, I'm blown on the quality of the topics and the information that's happening in this podcast, and it's all thanks to you, David. Thank you so much. I
Oh,
appreciate you
no
for
worries. Just think
making.
of it this way: I wouldn't be you and connecting with you on your original channel. So some of the
Awesome.
thanks is goes to you. In fact, I still have one or two friends that I met on your old channel that we're still in contact and we still share content with each other. And
That's
so
amazing.
yeah, it was great. I met some good people that way.
That's amazing. You see, even with this new channel, yes, it's a bit set up differently than the first one, but overall, the energy and the vibe is the same. Just connect with like-minded individuals. But over here on this new channel, what I've changed the focus is I want to highlight more of what people have to offer versus me teaching. I do still have videos where I teach how to's on the tips and business and YouTube and also on and so forth. But more of the focus I want to bring into the topics such as we've been having so far. So that's the only change other than that. But the people that we're connecting with, believe me, it's going to be the same quality that we're longevity. You know, some people who actually um, give before they can ask for anything. You know, awesome.
No, I agree with you.
Awesome, David. I have another question for you. Um, I want to change the subject towards photography and videography. And I wanted you to tell me and our viewers, specifically to our viewers who are starting in photography and videography, what they need to, what do they need to get started in the field of photography and videography?
Sure. I can honestly tell you that I would say 99.9% of people in the United States have a cell phone, and that's all you need is a cell phone. Now, some cell phones are going to have better cameras and better video capability than others, but I would start there. Start with what you have. I think it was Les Brown that was famous for saying that. Start where you are with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you start with your cell phone camera, um, and start with recording video that way, you can even put video up into YouTube submitted through your cell phone. Keep in mind that the cell phones that we have today are more powerful than the computers that NASA had when they sent the first men to the moon. And that computer was housed in a whole office building. So you have the power, a more powerful computer in the palm of your hand than NASA had when they launched men to the moon. So if you take that piece of technology that you probably spent anywhere
That
from
was a
500.
very powerful example, David. I just don't want to interrupt your thought. We'll
No,
get
no,
back
no,
to
you're
that.
fine.
That was a
It's
very powerful example that put things in perspective, especially for me.
Yeah, and I mean, you spend anywhere from $500-600 all the way up to $1,000. If you're lucky, you get a special where a device is actually free. I mean, that $1,000 piece of equipment can do wonders for you to get started. And I would start with that, and then I would grow from there.
Uh-huh.
So I
And
would
then tell
learn.
me
I would
from there, what would be the next step? Let's assume a person that has the camera, they have let's say they have not the latest iPhone, but an iPhone that records at a good quality. What would be the step afterwards?
So from there, what I would do is if you're using, no matter what camera you're using, I would learn the rules of composition and lighting. That's where I would start, composition and lighting. And then once you're comfortable with that, then I would start looking at, especially for videography, transition techniques. So that's where I would start those, composition and lighting, because I can tell you from my own personal experience that lighting for me is always the struggle because it
Mhm.
never is quite right. And I'm moving my
How's my
lights
lighting,
around.
David? I feel like
I'm
it's too
sorry,
orange.
I'm too orange.
No, my light. I feel like my light is too orange. What do you think?
No, I think mine's too blue.
No, yours is perfect on my.
But
I'm
that's
using
always
the sun. I'm using
yeah.
the
There
window. I
you
don't
go.
have
No,
anything else going.
I think that your skin tone is a little orange, but it doesn't look bad at all. But you can see how small tweaks, the camera you use, the lighting in the room, it's a lot to learn. So
Mhm.
I would learn composition, lighting techniques, and I would learn the photo editing software and a video editing software. And I know I'm throwing a lot out to get started, but that's what you're going to need to drive a photo or video business in today's world. Especially if you're looking to do content creation for other companies, you've got to know those things. So for me, it's Lightroom, DaVinci Resolve, because I'm a budget person, so DaVinci Resolve is free. I would do Lightroom. I would use my cell phone. And then from there, I would step into either a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. Since DSLRs are starting to drop off and the availability of lenses are starting to drop off, I would probably, at this point, I would probably start with a mirrorless camera rather than a
Mirrorless.
DSLR, although DSLRs are less expensive.
Got it. I'm taking notes over here. Um, I wanted to I wanted to get back to the composition and lighting. I think that's a loaded. Those are loaded words. Uh, would you explain me specifically? And I feel like some of the viewers might get an information too. Composition and lighting, are those two different things, or they go together? What does composition really stand for? What does that really mean?
So composition is the structure of the photo
Mm,
that you're taking. So, gosh, what was the first thing I learned in composition? The first thing I learned in composition is three items, three main subject matters is better than two.
mm,
So odd numbers are better than
even.
even numbers. Yeah.
Mm.
So three people in a photo, or three trees, or one tree, or that
Oh,
looks better.
really? That's a really, really great tip. Dive in that a bit more, David, please.
So that's the first thing is odd number is better than even number.
Guys,
Uh,
right there, that's a gem right there. If this was Bradley's show, he would have hit that button where the bomb drops. David just dropped a bomb right there. That's awesome.
So yes. So the other thing in composition is you want to give your subject, especially if it's a human being or an animal, you want to give your subject the opportunity to move in your photo. So you structure the photo so that your main focus has is in a third of the photo with room on the rest of the photo for them to move into that photo,
Mm.
because the human imagination wants to feel the movement of that photo. If you take a photo and that person is exactly in the center and cropped really tight, it feels claustrophobic to people. They want to have the opportunity to think about that thing moving. A bird in flight might be to the far right of the photo, and then the far left could be an empty space of sky or water. But in your mind, you imagine that bird flying across the water, if that's a good explanation.
That's an amazing explanation, actually. Just the second you said on one end, you can have the person, on the other end, you can have the blue emptiness, whether it's sky or ocean. My imagination just took off from there. That's a perfect explanation, actually. That's really good, David. Those were amazing tips. Thank you so much. And if you guys are listening to this, if you have follow up questions, and if you're watching this after the live podcast, then you can always leave a comment below. You're gonna see under this live stream, the description section, you're gonna see David and direct link to David's channel as well. But you can always leave a comment under this video, and we'll make sure that we answer to you. We'll tag David as well. We'll get back to you. If you're watching this live, you can always ask us live in the live chat section. David, and just a follow-up question on composition and lighting. Are there any lighting on gear that you can recommend, as far as how much price range should they spend, like the budget max and low on a lighting? Because a lot of people can get carried away. When it's new to you, you don't know less is more or not, especially when you go on Amazon. There's so many different kits, it's confusing. What would you say the best lighting kit starter would be?
Um, I paid $35, $37, something like that. And it was actually two lights with stands and the bulbs. It was a special during Christmas, and I want to see it's like Lumi Lights or something like that. It was an off brand,
Mhm.
but it's perfectly good. I would do soft boxes to get started. So a soft box is basically a light bulb with a housing around it, and then a diffuser on the front. That's where I would start, something really inexpensive like that. The thing to keep in mind is there's a couple of different brands that are really good brands.
Hmm.
Aperture, I can recommend, but they're going to be at a higher end, and you're not going to find as big a discount as you would on other brands. But Aperture is a brand that a lot of photographers and videographers use. The other one I would
How would
say
you
is,
spell that website, David, for our, I'm sorry, for our listeners? How would you spell that website?
sure, Aperture is Aperture.
Perfect.
Aperture.
Got it. Thank you so much. And you were
Yeah, and they
saying,
have really good quality lights, and a lot of professional photographers use them. The other brand that I can recommend on the budget end is Neewer, Neewer, Neewer brand. Everything that I've bought from Neewer has been excellent quality. I've never purchased anything for them and went, oh my gosh, I wasted my money on this. Always quality products. They have great LED panel lighting that you can put a softbox over, and they're relatively inexpensive. I just bought spare batteries for my camera that they were $20 for 2 batteries and a charger, as opposed to the Canon branded battery, which was $60 with
Whoa.
no charger.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I was like skeptical, and I'm like, okay, this is different. It's not lighting. I'm going to give it a try, and pleasantly surprised. Excellent quality. The only thing that the batteries don't do is they won't tell you when they're close to being out of juice. They just all of a sudden go to red. But I'm willing to live with that for a $40, actually more than that, savings on batteries.
There you go. And in all honesty, we all know our battery life kind of in the back of our heads approximately anyway.
Yes. So I mean, the difference in cost was phenomenal. But yeah, Neewer, I would say Neewer has some good lighting. But that's where I would start. I would start with soft boxes. Keep in mind that the larger the softbox, the softer and better the light. The smaller, the more direct and harsh the light. I would start with something fairly large.
Could you repeat that one more time, please?
Sure. The larger the softbox, the softer the light. The smaller the softbox, so the smaller the softbox, the harsher the light. So I'm using a smaller softbox right now for this video, and you can see how lit up my face is, and you can really see the contrast in my face. Kind of soft, but not really. A larger softbox is going to give you a nice even lighting and softer contrast on the skin. It just looks more appealing for a larger softbox. So I would lean more towards a larger softbox than a smaller softbox. But I do have a special tip for you on lighting.
To get rid of this orangeness.
For your orangeness, it's the light in your room. I don't know what light you're using, but it's
the sun. The window is right in front of me.
That's why it's orange. That's why it's orange, because the sun is orange. We could go into color temperature too, but that's why it's oranger, because the sun has an orange tint.
Gentlemen, we all learned that together. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's color temperature and lighting. If you're worried about color temperature and matching colors, temperature, like you're using the sun, if you wanted more lights in there to match, then there are newer lights that have the adjustment on the back for the color temperature from either blue, cooler, or browner.
Let's see how this works. Let's do it this way. Did the orange go away, or it's still the same?
You're not as orangey.
Oh, nice. So the recessed lights help.
Yeah, okay. Because you're casting a bluer light over the orange. So it's balancing it out. You have more of a natural skin tone now.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is why he's the professional in videography and photography. You couldn't even rehearse that, even if you wanted to.
It was a lot to learn. When I started, I thought, well, I'm going to grab a camera and start taking pictures, and there was a lot to learn from there. Because it wasn't film anymore, it was all digital. And then I realized, well, who cares if you take a picture, because who's going to see it? So now you got to learn social media. And maybe they won't see it on social media. You need a YouTube channel, so you better learn video editing, and all those techniques. So it's a lot. There is a lot to learn, but it's been a pretty cool. It's been a very good journey. That's what it's been. A very good journey.
Agree. And one thing to add to the lighting subject is the first channel I had, everything was shot on my iPhone. And you specifically, you, David, you know how much of your time I took on cameras, and I still end up not buying it. I was using my cell phone the whole time, and it worked. I got almost 5K subs. But this time around, actually, currently I'm using the GoPro GoPro 9 Hero to stream this, and I'm using that for the videos as well. I'm happy honestly with it, but definitely need more professionalism down the road. That's for
Sure.
sure. David,
And I mean, I'm
go ahead.
streaming with my GoPro as well right now, and
Oh,
I think it looks fine. And a lot of the video on my channel
mhm.
that I do, not the video I do for my clients, but the video on my channel is a lot of it's shot on a GoPro. I think GoPros are great. At the end of the day, I think it's the content that you're providing.
Mhm.
As long as you have fairly decent audio, fairly decent video, and you tell a good story, people will watch your videos.
This is so
And just
true.
yeah, just keep that in mind. It's what's the content that I'm providing for people? What am I delivering something to them that's of value? I think that's what's important.
So true. That's a great point. Just to wrap up this topic, David, any quick tips for our viewers that will make a fast difference in their craft as far as photography or videography goes? Any fast, quick tips that might help them out?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple really
Awesome.
quick tips. Things that I've learned. Number one, get an ND filter. So a neutral variable ND filter. So a variable ND filter is basically like sunglasses for your camera. A
Mm.
variable one you can adjust as you turn to make it either darker or lighter your image. And if you want great smooth photos of water, if you want to shoot in harsher light, if you're shooting video and you have to keep your frame rate the same, an ND filter is so valuable. That should be, once you get a camera, ND filter. And then what I would suggest on the ND filter is buy one that will fit your largest lens and get step rings that will adjust it down to smaller diameter lenses. But I
Uh-huh.
would say ND filter is a must.
ND filter. And how do you spell that word?
It's just ND, capital
Indie.
N, capital D. Yeah,
I
it stands
gotcha.
for neutral density is what it stands for.
Gotcha. And are you using that filter for the GoPro lens, or it's just the lens that comes with it?
No, no. This is just a lens that comes with it. I've never used an ND filter for the GoPro, but you can if that's going to be your main camera. My
Mm.
ND filters, because I started with a DSLR camera, my ND filters I purchased have all been for the lenses on my camera, on my DSLR, not on my GoPro. So I didn't want to spend the extra money because, of course, budget. I
Right,
didn't want to
right.
spend the extra money on a filter for the GoPro. I really needed it for the professional end of my work and for client work. So it's all my ND filters are for that.
That's awesome.
And then the other tip that I would say is shoot everything. Shoot everything. Don't leave your camera in the bag. Get it out, carry it, get a good strap. My wife just gave me I want to say it's a Polar Pro camera strap. I love that camera strap. It is so comfortable. So now my camera is always on me everywhere I go. Shoot everything. Even if it's, wow, that piece of paper sitting on the sidewalk looks way cool and interesting to me. Shoot everything because it's
That's
going to
awesome.
take you, yeah, at least 90% of the photos you take may be trash, but that 10% could be gold for you. So I would shoot everything.
That's awesome. And that example of the shooting the paper, I've noticed random objects shot in a close up shot are really interesting because they're like unique shots. No one ever goes down to the ground and looks at that object from that angle, you know. So when you do it with the camera, it really catches someone's attention. That's a really good
Yeah,
example.
and you never know what other people are going to find interesting. The worst case scenario is that you took some photos and you realize your settings were wrong, but that's okay if that photo looks terrible because your settings were wrong, because now you have that information to carry with you that, okay, these settings don't work in this situation. So you
That's
use it
awesome.
as a learning experience and then you move on. Yeah, when I started, I was still in the film mentality where every frame counted because you're using film, and I was taking very few photos. And
Mm.
and now, just that this last photo shoot I did for the t-shirt company, I shot 400 photos, and I think I
Whoa.
ended up with 20 really good ones.
Uh-huh.
But because of that, because you never know if someone's going to keep their eyes open or closed, if they'll look the right way, the wind blew wrong, the exposure isn't quite right. I shoot for days, and then I look for the gold out of that.
That's amazing. Our amazing viewers, if you guys didn't catch on to that, David just gave another tip, just casually like that. Take a lot of pictures because for the reasons he just mentioned, for those reasons you're gonna need it. That's a professional tip that I know this because I can relate. That comes from David's experience. He experienced it, he learned, he adapted, and if you can learn without doing any mistakes, hey, even more kudos to you. So that's why we bring a lot of smart individuals in their crafts, so we can all help them to bring more attention to their craft and at the same time get knowledge from them. It's a give and take, two-way street. That's
Hey,
awesome.
Gore.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I noticed that Trolley 13 is in the comic box.
Uh-huh.
Do you see Trolley 13?
Uh-huh. Yes.
And she has a comment. She's a Trolley 13 is actually a really good friend of mine. Her name
Awesome.
is Megan. And I
Uh-huh.
noticed her comment that says, "Don't forget your memory cards." I think that's a fantastic tip
Uh-huh.
because she's also a photographer, and we went
Oh.
out to take photos. This is way back, like 2.5, 3 years ago, and we went to take pictures of fall color, and we drove a good hour away, I would say.
Uh-huh.
And we got out of the car. I'm getting out my camera. We're walking over to where we're going to take photos of fall colors, and she says, "I forgot my memory cards." So she's right. I give her a hard time about it even to this day.
Oh my
It was the
God.
funniest thing ever, and she's right. So
That is an amazing tip.
Tony Northrup, who's him and his wife have a YouTube channel as well.
Uh-huh.
That's one of their tips is to buy memory cards, even if they're cheapy memory cards on discount. Put a couple in your glove compartment, put some in your camera bag, put wherever you're going to be just in case. They're just in case cards. Just throw them everywhere. And
That's an amazing tip, David. Really, really, same thing. I would say the same thing applies to the batteries as well. Yeah, you can never have enough batteries, especially fully charged. You,
no,
yeah,
yep, especially if they're newer $20 batteries, buy
uh-huh.
lots and just leave them everywhere.
So true. That is true. We have a lot of amazing viewers in the live chat section. I want to get back to real quick, David, before we
Sure.
move forward. A boy chap, shout out to you. Go what's your Instagram because I want your. It's modeling success successfully would be the Instagram. You can reach out us over there, and. Applied Life said, absolutely sure. I would be happy to engage in that chat discussion. Awesome. Applied Life Dynamics will, after in the future, we'll speak with David. We'll get connected and we'll see how all of our schedule is, and we'll set a date to get on a live chat, all three of us. Or if you want to bring a guest with you, all four of us. Or actually, our live chat allows to bring up to 10 guests. So, and we don't need to be together. I can send individual links to each one of us so we can all come from our own comfort. So the more the merrier. We will make that happen for sure. About Chop, we answered that question. Mark side bottom. Um, very good. I hear people are enjoying our live chat. Very good, David. Awesome. All right, moving forward to my next question for David, and this is going to be a little more philosophical. We're going to wrap everything we talked about: photography, videography, YouTube, and everything together. So I want to ask this question, David, and if you could go back in time and give your own younger self an advice, what would it be? What would you say to your younger self? And let's say in your late teens, early 20s, let's say.
I would say to myself, listen to your intuition and be self-aware. I think that's the best advice that I can give. It, because of the fact that this creative tendency of mine has always been around, and I listened to what other people had to say. I listened to their opinions on how life works, and I never felt as accomplished as I have when I put together content that I'm happy with, or that expresses a specific emotion that I'm trying to express. And I would say that that's the thing. Listen to your intuition. Listen to what you think you should do, and stick with that. You've got to block out everybody else's opinions, because this is your life and not theirs. And if you live your life trying to make them happy, you're guaranteed to be miserable.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. Thank you, David. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, I've said amazing like billion times. That's because it is. That's I can't find another word to describe the answers and the knowledge that comes out of this amazing human being. David, listening to your intuition, that right there took me a very long time to actually get clear on, because being able to connect with your inner gut, listen to your intuition, is a muscle itself that needs to be worked on, practiced on, and relied on after getting good at it. And same thing I can apply to me. The second I started making decisions based on what I truly believed in my gut, everything else just lined up. Anything that I was trying to push it and do it unnaturally, somehow some way it did not work out for whatever reason. And it shows that you cannot really change the natural flow of things happening. You can try, but you won't be able to change the end result to it. Thank you for that. Listening to your intuition, that's something we can all practice more and get better at. That's awesome. David, another follow-up question I want to ask you is, what does modeling success and doing it successfully means to you?
Well, I think that when you think about that question, I think the first thing you have to decide is what you feel success is, and I think that that's key. If you don't know if you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there.
Mhm.
And Will Smith, I watched a video with Will Smith one time, and he was talking about how he always sets his priorities ahead of time, and then he goes back in and he revisits them. And there was an instance where he had already set his priorities, that his family was number one, and his career was number two, his health was number three, and he described his priorities. And he went, he was at a show, an award show, and he was supposed to win a big award. I can't remember exactly what the award was, but he got a message that his daughter was ill, and that they were going to take her to the hospital. And because his priorities were already set, he instantly made the decision that the award wasn't important, because his number one priority was his family. He got up and he left and went to go be with his daughter. And I think it's important to have those priorities. And the only way to set those priorities is really to understand what success is to you and what it means to you. For me, success is having a great experience of life. Whether the great experience of life is the content that I create, the smiles I can share on other people's faces, the love I can give to someone. I think that for me, that is the idea of success. Being a successful human being is positively impacting other people as much as possible. And don't get me wrong, I am not perfect. I have my moments. Just, you can ask my wife. I'm sure she'll tell you. I definitely have my moments, but I try to make that a focus. And as far as modeling that success successfully, I think ties in with that. I think it's who you are on a daily basis, being self-aware of what you're saying, how you're acting, and what you're presenting to other people. I truly believe in the snowball effect, where if I wake up in the morning and I'm angry. I stub my toe on my bed. My coffee maker doesn't work and I can't get my coffee. And I walk out the door. If I'm not self-aware, I'm going to drive down the street, and the first person I run into that causes any kind of friction, I'm going to share that negativity with them and everybody else that I run into. And I think modeling success successfully is that presence that you would have, where I understand that things can go wrong. I'm going to take a step back, and I'm not going to present myself in a negative manner and perpetuate a negative society or a negative mentality to other people. I'm going to uplift, and I'm going to help in any way that I can. And I think that's the idea of role modeling success successfully, is being the best human being that you can be and sharing that presence with other people. And I think the most impactful people in our world have that mentality and are willing to share that, share the information and share the gratitude and happiness of their lives with others.
Well put, very well put, definitely. And one another way of to summarize what you just said is, when you're learning something, knowing that you're going to teach it, the information that you get and process sticks differently versus just learning, and you don't have to teach it. And what you said is so true. What ties modeling success successfully together is actually learning the information and doing it. And if it's not working, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That's simply part of the way. That's part of the game. If it doesn't work, continue again. Do it again. Do it again. Like Mark Cuban says, it only takes once to get it right. And success, it means many, many things to different people. Could be financial, could be spiritual, could be any form that you want to think of. Could be that way. Hence why we chose that name, because that question, when I asked to our guests, really tells me about their mindset and perspective. And what yours is really shows me, David, you truly are connected with your inner self, because the things that really make you happy is not tied with the things that the society considers success, so on and so forth. And I'm similar to that. That's why I picked that up. So I want to highlight that from your answer. Like, you know, that cheesy saying goes, best things in life are free. Well, it's true. You know, it is. Just because something is expensive doesn't mean it's the best. Unfortunately,
No,
that's the society we live in.
and I think that there's been certain moments, and you will find them if you're looking for them. There's been certain moments of surprise that you realize how impactful your life is. I think everybody kind of gets lost in today's world, that they're not as important or not as impactful, especially with social media the way that it is. But we are on a daily basis. It's the ripple effect. Every little splash in the ocean causes ripples, and sometimes those ripples expand into tidal waves. You just never know. I had an employee many years ago. I used to work in fast food quite a bit,
Mhm.
and I had an employee. I would say 20s. Yeah, I would say 20s, and he was like around 18 or so. And he was my employee. I was the manager of a fast food place. I won't say where, because who knows, somebody might get mad.
Right.
But I was the manager of a fast food place. He was an employee. And years later, through social media, he reached out and he said hi to me and connected with me. And his comment to me was, "You have no idea how much your management affected my life in
Wow.
a positive manner." I was totally blown away
Yeah.
that I didn't think I did anything special. I happen to be a person, like I said, everything has to be very structured for me in order for me to be content with my day. But somehow that, I guess, the method of my management, the time I spent with them, something I said was impactful to this person. And now we became in contact again like 30 years later. And for
Wow.
him to say, that really impacted his life. You just don't know. You don't know the little things that you're going to do that are going to change someone's life.
That's so true. That is so true. That's why uh, just doing something positive, whether that's opening a door for the person that's about to walk out that you're about to bump into, or letting them pass first, the simple things, you or simply saying hello to someone, you never know what that's going to do to someone. And in your case, obviously it's much deeper, but that's really amazing how you were able to share your, not knowledge, but your mindset, your overall, your positioning in life, and that resonated with someone who was dispositioned, and they knew they were dispositioned, and they were smart enough to notice that you're positioned in a way that they would want to be, and they aligned accordingly. That takes two to tango, so props to them too for being able to take your great advice and implementing it, that's really good. David, lastly, where can our listeners connect with you online?
Well, they can actually find me on Instagram at David Senteno Photography. I'm also on Twitter. If you search David Senteno, you can find me, but my Twitter handle is Poppin Fresh Pan One, because everything on social media used to be Poppin Fresh Panda, but I switched it to David Senteno Photography. So Twitter's still Poppin Fresh Pan One. You can find me on Facebook under David Senteno. You can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is simply David Senteno, and of course on LinkedIn there as well. And please, I suggest that if anybody found any of this content interesting, if there's anything that you would like to learn about photography, videography, equipment, gear, I'm very budget minded because it is a struggle when you're starting out trying to find the things that work, that are within your budget. I have a lot of experience and a lot of bad purchases, so I'm willing to share that. But please either contact me through Instagram or through YouTube. Let me know what you would like to see, what things I can try for you, or any tips and tricks or knowledge that you would specifically like to know. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. Always happy to help.
That's amazing. Thank you, David. I appreciate you. And I want to say special thanks to David Senteno. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for taking the Sunday afternoon to be here with us, share your story, share your knowledge, share your experiences, and make the world a better place that much more. That really means a lot. And I want to thank to everyone in the live chat section and listening to this. If you're not in the live chat, you're just listening, and to our future listeners when they're going to watch this as a video format. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you guys' time. I hope this was helpful. If you have something to offer to the world, you don't need to be any crazy famous person or anything. If you have really something valuable to offer to the world and you would like to be a guest on our podcast, you can always email us at modelingsuccessfully@gmail.com and put the subject podcast, and let us know what you do and why you would like to be on the podcast, and we'll take it from there. Other than that, Trolley 13, it was pleasure meeting you. Applied Life Dynamics, thank you so much. PCG team, thank you. Mark Sidebottom, always a pleasure with you, brother. Thank you so much. David, I did not forget, I really want to Applied Life with Dynamics team and you, and I really want to bring more topic, more light to the topic, and talk about and create some kind of really positive atmosphere and environment where many people can come and share their stories or feedback or tips or anything that can help someone else to get a bit forward in their own dreams and goals and aspirations. So
Gore, thank you so much for having me on, and it was so good to speak to you almost face to face. So thank you again very much for everything you've actually done for me over the past couple of years as I've been trying to develop my YouTube presence. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome, David. And also, Same goes for you, brother. You, as much as I've helped you, you helped me back, believe it or not. And I wanna say that this is something that is not just happened, and that it's something that's going to happen again. This is my way of basically invite you back to the podcast in the near future.
Hey, no worries. You let me know when, and I'll be there for you.
Awesome. David, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. My amazing audience. Thank you guys for being here. David, you're awesome. Have a blessed day. If you guys haven't subscribed
You
to
as
the
well.
channel, this is a great time to subscribe, and be sure to activate the bell. And in the description section, go ahead and check out David's direct link. Copy paste that link in your search bar, and it will take you to David's YouTube page. Subscribe to David's channel as well. Be sure to activate the bell for David's channel as well, so you can get notified. If you just subscribe and don't activate the bell, YouTube is not going to send you notifications and say, hey, David or Modeling Success successfully uploaded new videos. No, they won't. So subscribe, activate the bell so you can get notified. And be sure to, on David's, when you go on David's channel, on top, you're going to see a picture. On that bottom right corner of the picture, David has all the logos for other social media direct links. You see the Twitter over there, Instagram. You can click on those and connect with David on other
Mhm.
social medias directly from YouTube. Same thing applies for us. If you want to connect with Modeling Success successfully on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as well, go on our channel. On the same bottom right corner, you'll see the direct links. Other than that, thank you guys so much. David, you're awesome. Have a great day,
Thanks,
brother.
Gore.
I'll speak to you. Bye bye.
Bye.